So we want to go from just taking in information and watching videos and watching amazing content, right? Like there's so much amazing content out there. But my hope for you is that you go from watching, and you can absolutely watch a good video, but then turn it into action. Then go watch another good video and turn that into action. And read a good book and turn it into action. Stop just staying in this information phase. So I recently heard that if you tell someone about your goals, about whatever it is that you are trying to accomplish or change in your life, that it's scientifically proven that it gives you or can give you the same dopamine or emotional rush that you would get as though you actually achieved them. So sometimes when you tell someone your goals, it can make you feel like you've already reached them, and then that causes you to not work towards them, which is crazy to me because clearly talking about a goal and reaching a goal is so drastically different, right? If you think of the different goals in your life or the things that you want to accomplish, big or small, it's like there is a world of a difference between just having this idea on paper versus this becoming a reality. Because I mean, for some of us, the things that we want to do can be life-changing, whether it's for ourselves or it's for somebody else. And on this channel, we talk specifically about Christian women doing their kingdom work, just faithfully figuring out what or how to successfully do, and be faithful with what God has given you to do with your life or with the season of your life. But hearing about this got me thinking that, I tend to be a little bit more on the side of, I don't tell people my goals because I think for one, whether I think it's just there's this fear of I feel like, well, who am I to try to do that thing? And I also have in the past, I have shared goals and I have had some just people don't always respond the best. And so from experience, there's just different reasons why I don't share what I am working on with everybody. But I do have my key few people. But this really got me thinking because I've learned, I feel like, okay, I've kind of mastered the difference. I know the difference between talking about a goal and actually reaching a goal, which if you do have a goal you want to reach, that is what I am here to teach you specifically in regards to your kingdom work. So if you want help with that, hit the link below in the description below where I'm going to help you figure out where you're headed, the milestones you need to reach in order to get there, and the exact steps you need to take this week in order to do what God has called you to do. All right, sorry, I keep bunny trailing or adding in little bits. Okay, anyway, this really got me thinking on how I when I look at my life, I'm like, I've mastered or I feel more or less, always work in progress, but I mastered I figured out how to know the difference between talking about a goal and actually reaching a goal. But when I look back on the last 10 to 15 years of my life, I can totally see how I have fallen into, or I fell heavily into the information trap or the watching trap, watching other people reach goals or talk about how to do things. And so what it created for me, and let me know in the comments if this is you too, or if this is or has been, or yeah, let me know if this is you. But there's this feeling of, when you find the right video or you find that right blog post or you find the thing that kind of just like, it makes you feel seen, it makes you feel heard, it makes it feel like someone just really gets you and they're able to explain your problem. And then they have that perfect piece of advice that has that same effect of almost feeling, it makes you feel like you're on track. It makes you feel like you're really getting there. You're really doing this. Like this is the piece of information, or this is the video that I needed to watch. And now that I've watched it and now I've got clarity on where I'm stuck and why I'm stuck and blah, 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 then it just gives us that feeling that now we've got that missing piece. And now we're just going to do whatever it is that we're wanting to do, right? That goal, whether it's big or small. And so for me, and I think for a lot of us, it has been so easy to fall into that trap of thinking, if I buy that perfect course, or if I read that book, or if I can just find the right video that explains whatever it is in the right way, then it's just going to kick us into gear. But the truth is, information and consuming information, watching other people, basically whenever we're like, when we're reading or when we're taking in information, it's like we're watching other people achieve or who have achieved what it is that we're wanting to achieve in some way, shape, or form. And watching someone does not equal doing the thing that you're wanting to achieve. Watching someone who has successfully, changed their lifestyle habits and now they're eating well, they're working out, they're prioritizing everything in their life, who they just kind of, it's like, all of a sudden they just had that lifestyle change where boom, 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 everything just started to line up for them and they put in the work. So you watch that kind of person, but you can be totally, absolutely encouraged by them. And that encouragement is real. I don't want to downplay that. That inspiration that you get from watching other people, that is real, but it is not the same as doing. Watching someone coming across that perfect video, or the person who can explain your problems and frustrations to a T, is not the same as doing. And what I want for you is for you to become frustrated by that difference and to learn to identify what are the traps and the pitfalls that you're getting stuck in. Like, where are you feeling like you're on track? I remember just even last year listening to a podcast, and something that they had touched on had really moved my heart. Like, really, as I was listening, I can't even remember exactly what it was, but as I was listening, I was like, this is what I'm made to do. And it totally encouraged me in the direction of my YouTube channel, but it touched something inside of me. But even there, if I did not, or if I do not figure out how to take those moments where I'm moved and that movement is real and turn it into action, it's meaningless. Like, so what? It's like, okay, that's great to be moved, but it's really hard to be moved time and time and time again over decades when you haven't actually done anything. And so what I'm hoping for you is just that, as I'm sharing my journey with you, that you can see how over the years you might be able to identify those information traps that you've been stuck in, those places where you have watched other people succeed, or where you're looking for that perfect video or that perfect, just that missing puzzle piece. When the thing is, it's like the thing that's missing is usually it's that you need to do something. Like, you just need to start. You need to get into action, because that is the missing piece typically. And a lot more learning happens when you're in action versus when you're just taking in information. So I want to share a story with you about my mom. And it's this kind of situation that it's like this, was maybe, how do I set this up? Okay. So it was one of those situations that, as I was watching her go through this, I'm like, oh my goodness, do I ever know this feeling? And I know this emotion. I know how just like tricky that is to work through that kind of thing. And so when we're talking about first steps, right, because we want to go from just taking in information and watching videos and watching amazing content, right? Like, there's so much amazing content out there. But my hope for you is that you go from watching. And you can absolutely watch a good video, but then turn it into action. Then go watch another good video and turn that into action. And read a good book and turn it into action. Stop just staying in this information phase. But okay, so when we're talking about that first step, and if you want help with this, again, download the Kingdom Calling Clarity Map, where it's a free teaching. I'm going to walk you through where you want to be, what has God called you to, what are the milestones you need to reach in order to get there, and what are the exact key steps that you need to take this week in order to get moving. But it's those key first steps that we are talking about that are so hard, and they're going to throw you into an emotional knot, or many knots. And so sometimes that first step is the hardest that you are ever going to take. So what happened with my mom, I think it was last Yes, it was last winter. And so my parents were at our place, and my mom has written like over 150 songs. And over the last several decades, it has been a huge goal of hers to document those songs. And so one of the ways that the idea that was in the works at the time was that we were going to set up, I was going to set up my camera to over, okay, so I've just over there, I have the family piano. And this is a piano that my mom grew up with, that she had written her songs on, has played her songs on. And that's a piano that she learned to play piano on. So we wanted to get a video of my mom playing each of the songs that she's written with, so that the camera like pointing down at the keys, so that would be the keepsake that we have for generations. And we're going to put these on YouTube, and not necessarily for other people. It's just her way of documenting them. So as we're working towards this, like this was just a piece to the puzzle. And as we were working towards this, I was like, okay, I'm going to, like, I've got all the equipment, I've got the mics, I've got the camera, I've got everything that we need. So I'm going to do the work of setting it up. All that my mom has to do is come and sit down and play the piano. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't, like, this was just a test run. That test run, like, you would think, well, if this isn't, like, basically you can like record it, listen to it, and delete it all if you wanted to. So you would think that it would be so just like easy, right? You just sit down and you play. And she didn't even have to set anything up. She didn't have to figure out any of the technical stuff. All she had to do was go and sit down and play. And that simple thing, and it's like she's played, I mean, whenever she's here, she plays the piano. So it's not like there's nothing externally that would make sense for this to be a high anxiety task to do. And yet her stomach was in knots. You know, it creates that feeling where all you want to do is run away. And it's so uncomfortable and so scary. And as I'm seeing her walk through this and talk about it, I'm like, I know exactly what that feels like. Because sometimes those first steps, when you go from being just spiraling in busyness, right? And we hate being busy. We hate being stuck in the places and situations that we're stuck in. And yet sometimes that first step is so doable, and yet it's going to be one of the hardest things that you ever do in relation to you doing your God-given work. And so, you know, as it was such an interesting day for both my mom and I, because it was like, you know, we set this up, she sat down and she played. She felt a lot of anxiety before, and then afterwards, so afterwards we went out and we started a fire in the snow because we had a bunch of papers that we needed to burn. And it was so fun having that moment after to talk about it, because as we're talking about it, just gonna start biting me. As we're talking about it, it was just like, you know, you just realize that the goals that we want to reach have more to do with that internal struggle than external stuff. Like the actual action steps you need to take are really, at the end of the day, they're not that complicated. But it's the internal turmoil that we go through that is really hard. And that's usually why we stay stuck for so long, and why we come up with so many excuses. So as we're out there burning a bunch of papers, we're just like, we're in the snow, we've got this, like, you know, big fire pit that keeps getting bigger as the snow is melting, and talking about this. And just realizing, you know, it was such a success, because again, that video, it's somewhere on my computer. It doesn't really matter. Getting the video at the end isn't what mattered. It was the fact that she walked through something that was so big and scary and yet simple. It was the right step in the right direction. And so, you know, just again, as we're talking about it, realizing that for so long, she would have said, you know, I'll just quickly burn the papers first, or I'll quickly do this thing or that thing. Not just her, I would totally do this too. It's like, I'll just quickly do this little thing, and then I'll get to my work, or I'll get to that important thing that I really want to do. But why this whole situation was so successful was because we flipped it. We prioritized the most important thing, sitting down and just playing. I hit that record button and she just played the piano, and then got up, and then the reward was to go outside. it is such a small, simple thing, but it broke something the thing is, like, with these small first steps, the goal isn't to actually accomplish something big. It's to work through the barrier, that internal barrier that is keeping you stuck. And so, like, externally, you go from realizing over months, if you keep on pushing through those different fears and beliefs that keep you stuck, over months, you're going to see, wow, I went from consuming and taking in a lot of information to now I'm actually taking these steps. And these steps are easy to take and it doesn't take so much work. But in between, the difference was taking that small step, was just saying, okay, you know what? I watched a great video. Now I'm going to turn that into an action step and just go do that action step. And then the next day, watch another good video if you need to, right? Or you might just know what you need to do next. So then go and do it. Keep on taking those small steps in the right direction. And again, if you want help with this, click on the link in the description, grab the Kingdom Calling Clarity Map, where I'm going to help you walk through this. And so that you know what are those first steps that you need to take. Because sometimes it feels like there are a million different things that we could do. And so you need to know, okay, like, what is just that one small thing? But the other thing you need to know is that that one small thing is probably going to make you super uncomfortable, super scared. It's going to make you run away. So stick with it. It does not mean that God has not called you to the thing that he's called you to. It does not mean that you are not skilled. It does not mean that you are off track. It simply means that you have something to learn and that you have to just stretch your capacity for what, just what's comfortable, right? You're going from being comfortable with consuming information, from watching great videos, from taking in or just watching others, whether it's online or in person. You're going from watching other people succeed at things to saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to learn how to do this. I'm going to create that same or similar success in my life so that I can be faithful with what God has given me, right? This isn't about being big and flashy. This is about being faithful with the small things that he has given you. It doesn't take a lot. For some, it just looks like, okay, you know what? I'm going to sit down every day for 15 minutes and get good at piano because I know that he's given me songs that I have been created to write and I need to start sharing with people. It might look like going and buying different things that you can put into little, not goodie bags, but just whatever, into a bag, and that you can hand out to someone on the street who needs it. It just looks like being faithful with those really small things that God has given you to do. How do you just simply walk through those steps? And when there's a glitch, when you're uncomfortable, when you're fearful, when something just doesn't work, and that's going to happen, right? Just because this is of God does not mean that it's going to be easy. But it doesn't mean that you should do it, especially if it's something that he's shown you, it's something that you've been inspired to do. Go and do it. So my encouragement to you is that whether you are watching information that is amazing, or you're watching information that is kind of like just, a little bit brain dead and it's more of for entertainment, whether you are watching or consuming in a way where your life is just busy all the time, or you're always bringing stuff in all the time, or it's just like there's just too much that is keeping you stuck in the wrong track. All it takes for you is to make those small little changes to get in the right track, to start. But again, with that whole piano situation, we just went from instead of going and burning the papers before and then letting the piano stuff kind of just like fill in the rest of the day, or like, it's like, well, if we have time, then we'll do it. We said, no. We have for too long said, well, when there's time, then we'll do it, where we all fall into that trap. So instead we said, we're going to give the piano work the best part of the day, 15, 20 minutes. And then when that's done, we can do whatever we want. So we went out and we had fun burning papers. But it was such a success because there was something about that just stopped years of procrastinating. And right now, we haven't done, like, Mom has been, since then, she's been more on track with her music than she's ever been. We haven't recorded the songs, and yet it's like, but but that was such a win because it broke through an emotional barrier that she needed to break through, and it gave her clarity with what she actually needed to do next with her songs. So all of this plays, again, it's not about trying to do something big at the start. It's just, how do you start to get that momentum and start to get that progress? And once you keep on taking those first small steps, you're going to find that the momentum really starts to kick in, the clarity kicks in, and it's a whole lot easier. So my question to you is, what is that thing that you know you need to be doing? And when are you going to do it by? Make it small, make it doable. It could be the smallest thing, but the thing is, like, you probably know what you need to do. And whether you know it or not, I'm going to give you that invitation again to download the Kingdom Calling Clarity Map, where I'm going to help you nail that thing down and create a 12-week action plan so that you can start doing your kingdom work. Because 10 years from now, I hope that you are not watching my videos. I hope you don't even remember who I am. My goal is to help you get into action so that you can live the life that God has called you to. You can live a life faithful to Jesus. And I just want to help you get going with that. So grab that freebie. And lastly, remember to read the Bible, get lost in the story of God, and play your part. And I will talk to you soon.